Hey guys, I hope everybody's having a good day and a good night. I mean, you must be because you're hanging out with JBM Sports Media alongside my two guys here, Ben and Joe. We got to discuss this Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Knicks thing because this is really starting to drag out. And now we're talking that Giannis apparently only wanted to go to the Knicks, and the Knicks were the only team that apparently somewhat seriously, engaged the Bucks in trying to get a trade done. We actually have a Bucks fan and two Knicks fans to talk about it. So
Perfect.
we'll push it to the Bucks fan. Ben, you got to be going crazy over this, no?
I think, yes, for a multitude of reasons. I'll get into the Shams aspect in a little bit, but it kind of rubs me off the wrong way because the Bucks tried everything this offseason, in my opinion, to kind of make it worth Giannis's while to keep him in Milwaukee. For example, Miles Turner acquisition, waiving and stretching Damian Lillard's contract, signing guys like Cole Anthony, re-signing Kevin Porter, Bobby Portis, Gary Trent. They made the right moves to try to keep him here. And I feel like if this headline is true that the Knicks were the only team Giannis wanted to be traded to this offseason, it does mean that he still has that thought of no longer playing in Milwaukee on his mind. So to me, I understand it, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everything Giannis has done. It is a little bit of a disheartening feeling, kind of seeing this headline, waking up to this headline in the morning, to be honest. I'll let you guys talk about it a little bit more because this is probably an ecstatic feeling. Knicks, Giannis, same sentence. That's crazy.
Listen, coming from my end, I don't know if he actually wants to leave Milwaukee. I think maybe it's if Milwaukee had to trade him and he understands it's a business aspect and the business side of things. I think he would pick New York strictly due to a business issue. I don't think he actually wants to leave Milwaukee. I think he loves it there. But if Milwaukee said, hey, we can't build a sustainable winner with your contract and how the team is going to be looking if you left, we're going to have to trade you so we can get some value back for you. And that makes sense. Like I said, it's a business. It happens. And why not come to one of the biggest cities in the world and the mecca of basketball? It makes a lot of sense. But in my opinion, him being 34 when he becomes an unrestricted free agent, if the Knicks were going after him in free agency, it wouldn't make sense due to his age. Now, if they were going to trade for him while he's 31, 32, they don't have the picks for him. So I don't know how much could they have been engaging, what the offer was. I know Cat would have had to been involved. I know another guy like OG Anunoby would have had to be involved. But at that point, this has Carmelo Anthony written all over it again. That's just my opinion. Are we going to gut a team for another star player?
Yeah, I agree with that. And so to, refresh brew a little bit, Ben, the Melo thing was just months away that Melo wanted to be a Knick. That was obvious. Apparently Brooklyn was involved. There might have been another team. And the Knicks had to make this move to get this done, to get Melo, because they were in fear that he was going to end up getting traded elsewhere and signing the extension and never becoming a Knick. That in turn could have been one of the worst things they did because the amount of talent they give up to get Melo. Granted, those guys necessarily didn't pan out to be, the greatest players on earth or necessarily all-stars for that matter. I think there was a couple of appearances by a couple of these guys, but those pieces around Melo and what they had built in New York with Amari Stoudemire, it could have worked, and they would have had more depth. They would have had some talent. And that team, we don't know how that would have played out. But I do agree this does have the Melo thing written all over it because they already completely depleted their draft capital by trading for Mikal Bridges. And you would imagine that's obviously what Milwaukee wants in return. So how are the Knicks actually going to pull this off?
Yes, and to kind of go into that draft capital and everything that at the end of the day, if there was a trade offer that was proposed and why the Bucks didn't take it seriously, very empty clip of draft picks like Kevin O'Connor is saying here on Twitter. And I think that's a phenomenal point. It's not going to be enticing. There might have to be, if a Giannis to New York trade happens, for sure 3 teams involved. It has to be. There's no other way around it. I don't really see Cat, even though he is 29 years old, enticing Milwaukee. I think they would maybe want a more so 24, 25-year-old, a little bit younger, 4 or 5 years younger than Cat, involved in a trade like that. And also a multitude of first-round picks, obviously, for a player like Giannis and his caliber. If we could go and see exactly what Sean says right here, which I find extremely interesting on how John Horst, the GM of the Bucks, actually met with Giannis in Athens, Greece this summer to discuss the direction of the Milwaukee Bucks. Because after another first-round exit, I understand why Giannis is frustrated. I get it. It's totally understandable. With the Dame injury, I feel like him and the Dame connection, it just didn't work. And obviously that's a frustrating feeling because you trade a guy like Drew Holiday, and from there you thought, okay, we're bringing in Dame for the offense, and you get a guy like Doc Rivers. Coaching wise, it's not working out. I'll be honest, it's just not working out in Milwaukee. This right here, this upcoming year is make or break. John Horst, the Bucks GM, did say that this roster could still win. Giannis wasn't too sure, and behind the scene, his reps started exploring options, and one team that stood out, the main team, the only team on Giannis's mind, in my opinion, which I do believe that this is true right here, is the New York Knicks. And for a few weeks, it says right here that Shams is reporting that the Bucks and the Knicks actually talked about a possible deal. It never got far, but sources told Shams that if Giannis ever left Milwaukee, New York would be the one place he would want to be. How do you guys feel about that?
Listen, I mean, like I said, the bright lights, it's a big city. He could bring a championship here, and he'd be a god right off the bat. I mean, he'd be immortalized for the next 50 years. My thing is this, is John Hurst trying to let him feel that the team is good enough because the East is wide open? Because after this year, Tatum comes back, the East maybe gets better, maybe a couple of teams get stronger. Halliburton's out for the year. He comes back. There's up-and-coming teams. Detroit, maybe Atlanta gets better. Orlando is very good. Now with the East being open for 25-26, is he trying to convince him, bro, like, hey, we could still win because the East is wide open? But Giannis is looking at it like, after 25 and 26, it's not as open as we all think it is. So maybe he's trying to entice him and say, hey, we could win this year with the team that we have with you on it. Or, but Giannis is like, you know what, maybe. But after that, we're back at square one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I woke up to this headline and I saw this, it made me think a multitude of things. One, it's Shams that reported this, and not to take a little bit of a dig at Shams, but this whole summer, he's been trying to promote and try to establish this idea of Giannis leaving Milwaukee, even to a point where June 11th of this past offseason, Giannis tweeted, "Does anyone else miss Woj?" Obviously talking about Adrian Wojnarowski, great NBA insider, the main one, the GOAT in my opinion. It's come to a point where Sham is dragging this out. I'm not saying that he's completely wrong with the narrative of Giannis having the feeling that he does want to play for any other team. If it is another team, it is going to be the Knicks. I'm not saying he's wrong about that. I actually kind of agree with that, especially because there's been a little bit of back and forths between Giannis and the front office, more so. I don't know. I just don't feel like there's all these pieces adding up. Yes. Is there an uncertainty in Milwaukee? Absolutely. Absolutely. With the roster that's constructed, I feel like they tried their best. Is it 100%? Can it lead you to a first seed in the East? Most likely not. I mean, the Cavs, the Knicks, I feel like they're better teams than us. But could it lead you to a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference this year? Absolutely. And if we look at Giannis's contract real quick right here, like JV said, his first year as an unrestricted free agent, 2028 right here. At this point, he'll be 34 years of age. How do you guys feel about that? Are you guys not really, if you guys do sign him in free agency more so instead of a trade, not really that appealing?
I'm not waiting until he's 34.
I agree with Mike.
There's really, there's no upside here because realistically, the only way I think the Knicks pull this off, and you brought it up and we were talking about it before we recorded this, they need a third team. There's the only way that makes sense. And Cat has to go. Cat offsets the money to an extent. I think they also have to give up more in that. That could be a Bridges. That could be an Anunoby, which I hate the idea of Anunoby. Bridges, I don't really like giving him up, but I could live with it. OG, I love what he brings to the table, his defensive mind, and he's taken over some big games for us when we needed them. So I do love OG on the Knicks, and I think with Giannis and Jalen Brunson, that could be a nice three-headed monster. But you're going to gut your whole team. Like Joe said earlier, the Carmelo Anthony effect. You're going to gut everything you've built now. And they went all in with the Mikal Bridges trade. And you're kind of at a point where, what are we going to do? We're going to backtrack? No, the only way I feel like you're going to move a guy like Bridges is if you're going to try to attain some of that capital in return because you're blowing it up. It doesn't necessarily fit because all together itself, Karl Anthony Towns and Bridges don't get Giannis to New York. It's not enough. They don't have essentially the capital to do it, so you need a third team. So right off the rip, I don't like that. He has the player option at 33, but it's kind of hard to turn down $62 million if we're being honest.
That was my.
Let's be real
my
here.
point.
At that age?
My point. Yeah,
I mean,
he could opt out, but why would you do it? Like Mike said, $62 million guaranteed dollars
At 33 years old. I mean,
at
I don't
33
know.
years old.
So there's that. And now what? You want the Knicks to win? We don't know what the Knicks are going to be in the 28-29 season when he's an unrestricted free agent. We don't know. So to even have that narrative, we're gonna do this again. Well, this was like the LeBron James, Dwayne Wade saga from 20 years ago. Like we're gonna do this all over again in 3 years. In 3 years, you have no idea who's gonna be around. You really don't. You don't know what's gonna happen.
If the Knicks somehow win a title, there's no point to sign him.
No.
At that point, no.
There really is. It shouldn't even be revisited at that point.
And it's not like you're gonna get some hometown discount.
No, he's not gonna do that. He's gonna want every dollar he thinks he deserves.
Yeah.
And now, if I don't know when Cat is a free agent, I'll look it up on my phone. But if it works out that maybe they're both free agents at the same time, and
2029, I believe.
Yeah, all right, so you do that swap maybe then. But now you're talking about a 34, 35-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo, and we don't know what his production is going to be. We hope it's going to still be at a high level. We anticipate that, but you never know. Anything can happen. So to do the whole in 3 years, yeah, the Knicks will sign him. Yeah, sure. The Knicks are also going to sign Bronny James and maybe finally get Mitchell from Cleveland. I mean, what are we saying?
I want to talk about this real quick by Ian Begley on. I'm pretty sure he's an insider. I don't know if he's specifically a Knicks insider or just a basketball insider in general. I actually don't know that 100%. But he said the idea of winning a title in New York with the Knicks appeals to Giannis, and it makes it seem like he's very fond of that idea. I mean, I know you guys hearing that, it's probably a very good feeling because to me, this is how I see it, truly playing out. This Eastern Conference is very much so wide open. There's a lot to it. Obviously, the Halliburton injury, the Tatum injury, who knows, injuries, and, it's not a thing I wish on anybody, but they just happen throughout the regular season. You can't control it, to be honest. So how I see it playing out is I do believe that Giannis will eventually, unfortunately, and it hurts for me to say, he will unfortunately leave the Bucks at some point. But I think that we'll have to wait till next summer because I think they could possibly finish with the top 4 seed in the East. And that could possibly be the last hurrah, to be honest. That could be the last hurrah, the last attempt. And it's sad. It's sad, obviously, because this is like your franchise player, a top 3 player in the NBA, a guy that brings you nothing but consistency. So just the thought of this guy leaving your franchise, knowing what he's meant to it, it's obviously such a disheartening feeling, to be honest. But at the end of the day, I always have respect for him and what he's done for us, bringing us a championship. So all I will say is if he does end up requesting a trade, I would not be upset. Like deep down, it would hurt, but I would not be upset because of what he's done for us. And if it is to the Knicks, just make the right offer. That's all I ask for, Horse. Make the right offer. And it has to be exactly what we want. No sugarcoating it. Nothing else. This is our future. This guy, right here, he's represented us for so long. And now if he's going to leave, I want the right deal for our future because I don't want to go back into like after post Ray Allen after he left. So I don't want that for the Bucks. I really don't. Yeah, I don't know. How do you guys think about it? Do you think that this trade could be a realistic thing to see during the season or more so off season next year?
No, I think it's an off-season move. I think the Bucks are going to want to see how the East kind of shapes, especially like we were just talking about before with all the injuries and how everything is wide open. They could easily be a 1 seed. So if you really think about trading him in the middle of the season, you're kind of throwing your season away, and you're saying let's just rebuild now and not worry about making the playoffs, making a push to be a top 3 seed. At that point, that gets thrown away. So, no, I don't think he gets traded in the middle of the season. I think it would be revisited next year, if anything. Me personally, I think he will get traded the year before his contract expires just because they're not going to want to have him walk and they get screwed. You know what I mean? And they don't get anything for him. And he just goes to New York or wherever, and the Bucks don't get compensated for it. So I also do want to say the style of play with Giannis, he doesn't spread the floor as well. So a guy like Cat spreads the floor a little bit better because Cat could shoot, and Giannis is not the best shooter. But those are things we're gonna have to take into consideration if this does come about. There's a lot of things that could go wrong, but there's obviously a lot of things that could go right.
Yeah, I mean, to really, I guess, somewhat put this to rest, I mean, first of all, I do think it's like a little ridiculous that this even came out at this point. Really putting that out there. If Giannis, would love to win a title in the Garden, I mean, honestly, a lot of players do. The Garden is the mecca of basketball for a reason. It still holds a special place. You see a lot of guys come in and play up when they're in Madison Square Garden. Kobe did it. Trae Young does it now. Steph Curry does it now. LeBron always plays up here. It has that aura to it that a team that hasn't won in 50 years can still bring something like that. Yeah. And now to have a player like Jay said earlier, if Giannis were to come here and win this team a ring and hoist a trophy, he's going to be a god. Anybody that does it for the Knicks will be a god. I mean, we still praise Walt Clyde Frazier, and this happened in the 70s, and rightfully so. And he's a Knicks legend, and that's, because of it. Willis Reed, the famous game that he had, the Game 7 and all that, that plays into it. And he would be considered a god, and it would be incredible to have a guy like Giannis on this team because outside of Melo, and now Brunson has emerged, the Knicks haven't had that huge superstar like this in a long time. Yeah, like I said, I mentioned Melo, we had Amari, we got Brunson who's taken over this city. But to have arguably the best player in the game in New York, I don't remember the last time that happened. Do I actually think a trade like this gets done offseason or not? No. Like Bruce said earlier, they need a third team. Hands down, they need a third team. That's the only way this happens. But I don't see it happen. I think this is just smoke and mirrors. And you know what? Maybe this is Giannis's way of maybe flexing a little bit. Kind of saying, because listen, let's be real here. The inmates run the asylum when it comes to the NBA. So absolutely. Giannis could easily strong arm the Bucks if he really wants to, because we've been watching it happen for the last 15 to 20 years and probably then some. So if he really wants this to happen, he could easily put a ton of pressure on Milwaukee and make them make the move, essentially. But I'll be honest, Giannis doesn't strike me as that type of person. I don't know him. I've never met him. I've never had a conversation with him. But just from what I see, how he conducts himself, how he carries himself, the interviews I've seen, the way he speaks, he does not strike me as a guy that would act that way. He really doesn't.
No.
So, I mean, time will tell. I personally don't think this gets done.
Me neither. I do believe, and I've mentioned this before, I don't know if I mentioned it specifically on a TikTok, but I said the way I could see Giannis getting traded during the season this upcoming year is, let's say he gets injured for maybe 10 games to start off the year, or maybe a 15-game span, because normally he plays 70 games per year. He has been able to do that, which is pretty good for his age right now, 70 games per year. Cool, I'm fine with that. But let's say he suffers an injury, and then the Bucks, because if you take Giannis out of that roster of the Bucks, I'm not going to lie, it is a bottom tier team in the Eastern Conference, in the whole NBA, if I could be honest. It's bottom tier. I'm afraid if he does go down for a significant period of time, God forbid, that will make the Bucks think, all right, we might have to force our hands right here and do something we might not want to do. Do I want that to happen? Obviously not. I hope he has a healthy season, another MVP type of year, especially with the East being wide open. I can see him getting some MVP votes like he always does. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, Shams, I feel the way I feel about him. I'm not going to get too much into depth about it, but I don't think he was necessarily wrong about certain aspects of what he said today, because I do believe if there's one team that Giannis would want to go to, it is the Knicks. And I do see that as a strong possibility to get revisited in the offseason, if I could be quite honest.
Just, before we wrap this up, I don't want to go too deep into this, but the one New York team that could actually get him is the Nets. They have the picks.
They do. They do.
And they could be either the third team or the team that actually gets him.
You know that saying that you're taught when you're a kid? If you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all.
It's the truth.
That's where I'm at. That's my response to what you just said.
But they could.
I'm being honest.
And
I'm just going to leave it there.
Yo,
I'm just going to leave that there.
5-round picks. And now
they have the pieces. They do. And it would be at the expense of the Knicks.
That's what I'm saying.
But let's be honest. The Nets will find a way to screw it up.
Oh, no, I know. But they can still land the trade, which means the way they'd screw it up is they'd get Giannis and not build around him. And he'd be in New York with a Milwaukee type of situation, a bottom-feeding roster that's not going to make the playoffs. The minute he goes down with an injury, they're a 30-win team.
Yes, that's the thing I was going to say. Yes, if he goes to the Nets, it would obviously entice the Bucks a lot with those draft picks that they have, young talent that they have. Yes, that is very enticing. But for Giannis, him going to the Nets won't do him nothing. Because if he goes down with the injury right there in Brooklyn, like you said, that's a wrap of a season. It's over. They don't have the talent surrounded with him. With the Knicks, at least he's going to have Brunson. That will be a dynamic offense. I mean, I could just imagine the pick and rolls in that system because Giannis, he's about to play point guard for the Bucks this year. So I don't know how that's going to look. But so
let me ask you, does Giannis have a full no trade clause?
I don't believe so.
Oh, wow.
I don't believe so.
If he doesn't, I mean, if he does, he's not going to Brooklyn. Let's be honest. That's not happening.
No.
It's just not. I'm sorry.
I have to fact check that.
Milwaukee says, "Hey, listen, this is what's best for us."
Yeah, man.
But if he has the full no trade, he's not going.
But like you said, Ro, the inmates run the asylum. I totally get that. But if the Bucks go to him and say, "Hey, listen, we're strapped here. They got 5 picks. They're offering us 4. We want them. The Knicks can't give it to us."
Yeah, I mean, even I feel like as a basketball fan in general, him going to the Knicks, obviously, I would not root for him necessarily, but I would wish him nothing but the best because of what he's done for us. So it would be electric to see him at MSG playing with Brunson. I'm pretty sure they would keep a guy, either Bridges or Anunoby, and they could still surround some depth. He does not have a no trade clause in his contract. No, he does not.
Interesting.
That could be a possibility.
So
he can yell and scream and kick and scream and jump up and down all he wants, but he could get sent there. That is a possibility. So with the not having a full no trade clause, I actually could see that happening. If he had one, then I would say absolutely not. So that absolutely could be a realistic idea. And like you said, the Nets absolutely have the capital to do it.
They do.
But what are they pairing him with?
That's there's no other 1A, 1B, a 2A. There's nothing there.
They would have to make major moves in the offseason, and the thing is, I don't know. I would really have to look into who's going to be upcoming free agents and all that. Maybe they make another major trade. I mean, try to form another Brooklyn super team. I don't know, but I don't see that being a thing.
I'll say this real quick to wrap it up. A team that has the draft capital and the young talent, and this is going to scare so many people, to pull off a trade like this. And it's crazy because they just won the NBA championship.
I was about to say
OKC Thunder.
Yeah.
If you have SGA, Giannis, and J-Dub on the same team.
But why
are we even watching the games anymore if that happens?
You said what, JB?
But realistically, why would OKC want to do that? Give up young talent for a 34-year-old?
Well, that's a good point.
Or a 33-year-old?
I mean, that's a good point. Obviously, it's
Giannis. I'm saying if they trade him in like a year or two.
I think the fact of the matter is that they would most likely either keep J-Dub or Chet. I would be more interested in Chet. I like Chet's upside a little bit better to get that trade done. And they do still have one more Clippers pick, and they have some more picks coming in through the years. By the way, that trade, maybe we'll visit that as a video of its own, the SGA to the Thunder and Paul George to the Clippers, because that trade itself changed the landscape of the NBA tremendously.
Put a championship in OKC.
That first one ever in franchise history, and the Clippers are still trying to find their championship. Where is it at? Hey, maybe it's with the Kawhi tree money scandal. That's where it might be.
Man.
So
that's another episode.
Yep. So I guess
so much.
So before we wrap here, I guess final thoughts. I want to send them off to you guys watching in the comment section. Let us know what you think of this. Do you think it's a possibility that Giannis ends up in New York? Do you think it's crazy? Do you think the Knicks have enough to do it? What are your thoughts on it? We'd love to hear it. You got ours. As always, for Ben and Joe, I'm Mike. This is JBM Sports Media.